Lasting relationships take intentional commitment over time, and that means knowing your love language. Do you know how you give and receive love? Find out in today's episode. Welcome back to My Mother's Daughter podcast, where we choose to focus on the controllables, jump off the hamster wheel of grief, and take steps to honoring our loved ones by living a life filled with gratitude, joy, and abundance. It's time to get stubborn about what we want and choose to lean into who we were meant to be, while drinking too much caffeine, owning way more workout pants than we'd like to admit, and dreading that nightly dinner talk almost as much as waking up early. You feel me, sister? I'm Angel McElhaney, motherless daughter, positive psychology junkie, and not so master juggler of my crazy crew, and I believe that you can heal and find happiness after loss. So grab that coffee, put down that to-do list, and let's get to work. One day at a time, together. Let's get started with today's show. Hey, welcome back to this episode of My Mother's Daughter podcast. Today we have Chelsea Lambert. She is a communication coach for the wife and mama, and she helps women effectively communicate with their households and also work through their limiting self-beliefs. Something I definitely need. Welcome, Chelsea.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really excited. It is Valentine's time, and this is the perfect time for this topic of love languages. So I'm hoping that you can shed some light on what exactly love languages are and how we can really better communicate with the people in our lives.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. And also, thank you for letting me speak on literally my favorite subject. So with the love languages, the 5 love languages, Dr. Gary Chapman, he's my soulmate. Well, besides my husband. If I could give him a big old hug, I would pay thousands to sit down and just listen to 5 minutes of wisdom from this man. For the longest time, me and my husband, we would tiff about the silliest things. And then probably about 9 or 10 months ago, I was jamming out on my podcast like normal on my drive to work, and I came across the 5 love languages. As I'm listening, the light bulb in my head went off, and I'm like, holy cannoli, like, this man totally knows what he is talking about. And so many things started making sense, just different little tips that we got into, or how I felt unappreciated at some points, and like how he felt like I wasn't appreciative of him, and vice versa. So before we dive deep into the 5 love languages, I wanted to list them off for you. So we have words of affirmation, we have acts of service, gift giving, quality time, and physical touch. Now, if you heard those and you think, I like all of those make me happy, that's totally normal. Like, you should 1,000% implement all of those into your marriage. It should be something, that's incorporated into your daily lives. But as I go through them, I promise one will stick out more than the others. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ping through the list and give a brief description. After that, I would love to really dig deep into how you can effectively open up this conversation with your spouse and make it a positive conversation and not a negative one, as for telling your partner he's not loving you correctly, because please,
you're doing it wrong, honey.
Yeah, no. So actually, before we dive in, I'll give my backstory for why I forewarned why you should go into this conversation gracefully.
Oh, this sounds juicy.
Yeah. If my husband doesn't know how honest I am when I talk to
he
people.
He needs to read the Enneagram. She's an 8 too, guys.
I was not very graceful when I opened the conversation up to him. I told him, I am definitely words of affirmation, your physical touch, and that's why we tip sometimes. All right, ladies, that's not how you do it. What he heard was he was not loving me properly and I was not loving him properly. And that wasn't how I wanted the conversation to go. So go into it a little bit more gracefully, but we'll get back to that. I just wanted to give my sidebar. But
no, that's good. That's probably the most important part about the communication is how you use it. And they should they take a test or see which ones they self-identify with, or a combination of both, or how should they go about?
I personally, when I was listening to him describe each one, which I'll do in just a moment, I definitely resonated with words of affirmation. I was sitting there and I'm listening. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the one that makes me feel the most loved. But if you go on to 5lovelanguages.com, there is, I think it's about a 10-question test, and it will tell you exactly which one you are. And it's super cool too, because they have it for your spouse and they also have it for your children, which after taking the test and really thinking about my child as well, it showed me that quality time is hers. So like when she wants me at the end of the day, after you've been at work, you're tired, you're over it, you just want to take your bubble bath and go night-night, and your child's in your face and they're like, hey, look at me. That's because they want that quality time with you. Just like some children would rather sit on your lap because they want that physical touch,
Yeah.
Have you noticed that with your little ones?
Yeah, and I do think that you can have kind of a main one and then a secondary one, because I have noticed that sometimes it's close, like there might be two where one is really strong, but then like there's this other one that's like not quite as probably high, but definitely is seen.
Yeah.
For instance, my husband's probably acts of service, and then his second one, I would guess, is quality time. And then my kids, I have 4. So I feel like I definitely have one that is receiving gifts, I think. And then quality time is one of them. And I think that one of them, it might be words, because sometimes it can also be not what helps them, I think, but what can tear them down. Like I noticed I had to change how I talk to my second son. Like I can't be as like my first son's a bit more like me, like you can be direct and kind of like firm, and then the second one I would say the same thing and it would seem like it would crush him more. Do you know what I mean? Like he was more sensitive, or just like
no, but that's
kind
beautiful though, that you took the time to figure out how to love each individual child, because I think especially when you have multiples, I only have one, but just picking my mom's brain about how it was with like 3 of us, she kind of described us as a pack.
Oh yeah.
But each one has to be loved in his or her own individual way. But now jumping back on the tracks, we talked about this before the interview. I know.
No, you're fine.
We just need to have a conversation off of the interview. But when it comes to words of affirmation, it's really just telling your partner that you care about them, or that he looks handsome, or that you really appreciate when he does X, Y, and Z. When it comes to acts of service, that one there could be getting the oil changed in your car, taking out the trash, cleaning up the house, really anything that takes something off of your plate and lessens your workload. Now, when you think of gifts, I know a lot of people automatically, especially since it's Valentine's Day month, they automatically think of the holidays. They think of Valentine's Day or Christmas or a birthday. The trick when it comes to gift giving is it's not always the thought that counts. Like you actually have to purchase said gift, because if you just think about buying it, you're not really loving them properly. So if your partner is someone that enjoys getting gifts, if that's how they feel love, you have to get them small gifts throughout the year. Just little things. You don't have to run down and get jewelry or, anything super expensive.
Yeah, it's probably even better if it's just something more thoughtful, right? Like some small little token type of thing can make a big difference, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when it comes to gift giving, the trick is you have to listen to your partner throughout the year. Listen to if he is really digging a certain type of shirt, or if there's like a sporting event that he wants to go to, or a movie that he really wants to see, so that in return, when you get that ticket for him, or I don't know, that baseball cap or whatever, he knows that you are truly listening. The next one is going to be quality time. Quality time is where you really shut down everything. In today's age, and I know I struggle with this big time, you have to put your phone down. You have to have quiet time, and you have to truly just enjoy your time with your partner. So the next one is quality time. When it comes to quality time, that is really you putting down your cell phone, taking the time, and maybe going on a walk with your partner. It could be going out to dinner with your partner. I don't suggest going to the movies or going somewhere that involves you not paying attention to them. Something that involves like you just staring at a screen, because at the end of the day, that's not really quality time, because that's kind of the same as just looking at your cell phone. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is going to be physical touch. I feel like a lot of people, when they hear physical touch, they automatically assume something sexual. They assume that that's the only way to physically love your partner. Physical touch can be so many different things. It could be holding hands. It could be cuddling. It's truly just having those intimate times with your partner that involve some kind of touching. So those are the 5 love languages. The trick is to figure out what your partner's love language is, because at the end of the day, this is your person. This is who you want to spend the rest of your life with. And it's truly a sad thought to think that you could potentially spend 20, 30, 40 years with one person and not love them properly. Just the same goes for you. Like, you deserve to be loved properly. And I feel like there would be a lot less divorces. There would be a lot less separations and breakups if the couple, if they were able to get on the same page. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree. And I think one of the biggest things is that you actually tend to show love and how you yourself, acknowledge and receive it. So, for instance, if I'm words, then I'm probably giving Reggie words. Whereas if he's acts of service, he probably wants me to go and do the dishes or something like that, or cook dinner. Or I will say this, because he's acts of service, he's actually made comments where he's a good cook, and he'll grill and, say he grills a big steak or whatever. I do appreciate it, but I might not show it as much as someone else, because that's not really my love language. I mean, I do love food, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
But
I love that you said that, because so many people, the fact that it's so common for people to have opposite love languages. It's more common for 2 people to have opposite love languages than the same. So the chances of a couple not running into, like you said, where you feel like you're going above and beyond for your partner, and them thinking, well, that was nice, but I would have much rather you do the dishes or brought me flowers home,
Well, and it's funny, before I ever heard of the book or what this was, he had gotten me a card, and you know how the people that, a lot of people will do this, they'll just write their name in the card, or love Reggie. And I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't even know it was a thing. And I was like, hold on. Like, I don't want a card if you're not going to write in it. So I'm
No.
definitely words, like to
No,
the 100th degree. But
I agree 1,000%. And same here. Like my husband, we, especially when like we have like a vacation coming up or something, we'll look at each other and we'll tell one another, like, we are not doing presents for Christmas or whatever the case is. But I'm so quick to look at him and say, you better get me a card. I don't care if you don't do anything else, you better get me a card. Now, in or with the 5 love languages, it also plays a huge role in grief. I know that we were talking about this a little bit prior to jumping on the interview, so I definitely wanted to make sure to touch base on it some, because I know when my husband, when his father passed, I didn't know, I didn't know how to properly help him work through those emotions. And what I ended up doing was almost pissing him off a little. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say that
no,
or
you're
not,
fine.
but okay. But where my love language is words of affirmation, I found myself repeatedly trying to talk to him. Like, are you okay? How can I help you? What are you feeling? You know, like trying to open up that dialogue when he didn't want that type of love at all. When someone is grieving, and I personally, I lost my grandmother this year, and I know that because mine isn't physical touch. So when I am very upset and somebody tries to hug me, it doesn't help. It does not help at all. So I think really the biggest thing to stress here is when somebody is grieving, you have to respect what they tell you their limits are, what their boundaries are. I know that prior to me grieving someone close to myself, when I would try to help one of my loved ones work through, regardless of if it was like an illness or if they lost somebody, just a tragic situation, I was so quick to assume that I knew what they needed when that wasn't the case at all. Because I've had loved ones specifically tell me, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't want a hug right now. And me being the one that's trying to love them, you almost sit back and you're like, no, you need to talk, or you need this hug, until I personally went through it, which I'm sure, I know you have felt all the emotions, but with me not being a physical touchy type of person, when I was grieving my grandmother and I would have family members try to hug me, it did the exact opposite of what they were trying to do. Sadly. I mean, it's like I knew they were trying to help, but on the flip side, I'm like, can you not do this right now?
Well, and I think it's really popular. Not popular, I guess is not the right word, but maybe common that people want to like talk to you about it. But I do recall, like, I had one friend named Megan. Hi, Megan, if you're talking to or listen to this. But she would invite us to play dates, and there was value in this that she didn't try to talk to me about it. In fact, I felt like even though I'm words, I wasn't ready to do words because that brought everything up.
Yeah.
Like I almost just needed, because that's probably when I like remembered more, or it was just too fresh. So I definitely think it's kind of interesting thinking about how to communicate, like what actions to take, what to avoid, and just in general, really taking the time to get to know the people in your life, because it is kind of cool that we do act the way we do for a reason and respond to each other. I don't know. It's kind of like a light bulb, kind of like the Enneagram. Like it's kind of like a light bulb. Like, do I even know you guys? No, but it's kind of a tool
really though.
that we can all kind of, if I know this about you, like even you saying that you were 8-wing-7 with the Enneagram or words, like if I know that, then I know, oh, I need to, like I remember my mom would tell me to write thank you cards, and I would, especially if someone she knew as words, or there's definitely going to be those times where you can kind of see what someone needs based on that, which I think is really cool. So.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank you for hopping on here and talking to us about the 5 love languages. Is there a place we can find you?
Yes, ma'am. And thank
All
you so
right.
much for having me on. I hang out the most on Instagram. You can find me. It's at Coach Chelsea Lambert. You can head over to my website, which is shespeakswithlove.com, or if you want more information on communication, you can always go and listen to my podcast, and that is She Speaks with Love. And you can find me on all the major podcast platforms.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for coming and speaking with us. And I'm really excited to use this for Valentine's Day. Let's see. He's acts of service. What's your husband?
He is physical touch.
I do think that's the one that's most typed wrong. So I wonder if, like, most men think that they're physical touch, or if they do a test, or what's his second one?
So his second one is acts of service. And I know we're about to end, but I love that you brought that up, because I do feel like most men do fall back on the physical touch one. So I 1,000%, when you do open up this conversation, I say hop on the website and y'all just take the quiz in separate rooms.
Well, and then that's to be said, like, they have to like holding hands and all these other things too. Like, it's kind of like, because everyone puts it into the sex type of thing. And it's like, actually there's, do you like when someone hugs you? Do you like when, it's also how you like to receive love from everyone else. So that might be seen with their friends with like wrestling or something, or like high fives or hugs, or, like kind of physical.
Yes, he is a big hugger.
Well, a side note, I heard that if you have 5 20-second hugs a day, that you will be happier. So a little tidbit there. You will be happier now because you have a hugger. But all right. So thank you so much for hopping on. And again, you guys can find Chelsea on Instagram, and the handle was at Coach Chelsea Lambert. All right, until next time, remember, you are capable, you are strong, and you can do the hard things. With love and abundance, Angel. Hey mama, before you go, if you found value in today's show or you learned something new, head on over to iTunes and leave me a review. I really love seeing what you're taking from the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social too. Find me over there at angel.mcilhaney. Check out the show notes for my crazy last name. Until next time.